There is a life full of effort moments and effort moments.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Thinking CAAP. I'm Beck Moore, CEO of Community Action Association of Pennsylvania, and joining me today is my sidekick, the CEO of Holloway Media Services, Heather Holloway. What's up, Heather?
Hey, everybody. So good to be here. Thanks, Beck.
And I'm going to start today with a little bit of a simple question in terms of what makes someone decide that the place they live is worth fighting for. So not just living in, not just working in, but ultimately fighting for. Every day across Pennsylvania, leaders are waking up and carrying the challenges of their communities with them, particularly those leaders that were within community action. They're seeing families struggling to make ends meet, children who need opportunities, and of course, the barriers that stand between where people are and where they hope to be. And despite all of those challenges, they keep showing up. And today's conversation is about and with one of those leaders. So today we're joined by Brandi Fleming, Executive Director of Indiana County Community Action Program, to talk about leadership, service, responsibility, and ultimately what it means to hold on to hope on behalf of a community. And so, Brandi, welcome to the Thinking CAAP. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you, Beck. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, this is going to be a good one.
Well, no pressure, Brandi, no pressure.
Yeah, I'll try and get it off my back.
Just conversation among friends here.
Yes.
Absolutely. Totally casual. I'm not being recorded or anything.
Well, the real question will be is if you listen back to the episode, which I always encourage people to do. So we'll say that up front before we get into the thick of it all. Please listen to yourself back. I promise you're going to be amazing, no doubt.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So we were chatting a little bit before we got started around you being a lifelong resident of Indiana County, minus 3 years, had a little blip in a couple other places. But what really has kept you rooted there? Anything in particular that you can speak to or you want to shout out?
I think that every single community has their barriers. They have their good, their bad, their ugly. But the thing that keeps me in Indiana County and what brought me back actually is the fact that it's a safety net. It's surrounded by a lot of different big cities as far as like Pittsburgh, a couple hours from Philadelphia. Like we have those surrounding things that you can always enjoy and become a part of, but you can always go back to Indiana, which is lower crime, more opportunities for families to grow in safety as opposed to, being worried if your kid is on the street and they're going to be attacked by something or, it just gave me a more sense of the community that I grew up in. And I wanted to give that to my children as well.
Yeah. I will say as somebody who grew up in a military family, a bit of an Army brat, we bebopped around the whole country. So the longest I've ever lived anywhere is 7 years. And yeah, I went to, a ridiculous number of elementary schools. So it kind of blows my mind to hear when somebody has been in one location for so long. I think it's really beautiful, but does not compute in my brain if I'm being completely honest. But I appreciate so much the sentiment now living in a place that I just really love and appreciate. Our kids walk to school. We're close enough to be able to walk to the local ice cream place. There's something. But so I like to say we sort of have small town feel, but with big opportunities all around us.
Absolutely. That's what Indiana is well.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So you've been within community action now for how long?
9 years. June 12th was 9 years.
Wow.
9 years.
Congrats.
Thank you.
And so within community action, we've talked about this quite a bit on the Thinking CAAP on different episodes. When people hear community action, what do you wish they understood?
I wish that when they heard the word community action, that they really knew that we were about creating pathways to stability and opportunities, not necessarily just finishing actions for everyone, but we're trying to be the facilitators. It's about meeting people where they are, whether they need to have assistance with housing or employment, financial stability. We walk alongside them to provide the tools that we have, the resources that we have access to, so that they can create a better future for themselves. It's not this handout that people think all the time, the stigma that's wrapped around community action. It's about us wanting people to do better, finding the best version of themselves, thriving in the community, and making it the best place that we can all live.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've heard people say it's not a hand out, it's a hand up.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. Hand up. It's a hand reaching out so that you can get up. We're in 2026 here, Brandi. I imagine that today's challenges were different than last year's challenges that were different than 2 years ago. So currently in Indiana County, what are families facing?
Wow, that's a complex issue, honestly. Back maybe 2 years ago, 7 years, 10 years, 15, whatever your demographic and time period you want to look at, they had their different challenges that they were overseeing. But the complexity of the issues that our families and individuals are seeing are, I think, the largest that I've ever witnessed. It's not just, okay, so we're having trouble finding a house because there's not a lot of affordable housing. It's like, okay, well, there's not a lot of affordable housing, so I also don't have a living wage employment, and the grocery prices are also increasing, so I can't provide food on the table. And so it's this conglomeration of different issues all into this one, that even by giving them one level of assistance, it's really not fixing the problem as a whole.
Yeah, well, we talk about a lot that, right, when somebody comes to a community action agency, maybe for food specifically, chances are if people are having trouble putting food on the table, that there's other things that they also need. And so I guess a follow-up to that I want to kind of explore a little bit is just that particular idea, right? So when you all have somebody coming to reach out or need a resource, are you finding it's one need? Or are you finding it's multiple needs?
It's multiple needs across the board. We have individuals that will call in. That's why when we have a cold call or a walk-in, we do a community needs assessment with them right off the jump, so we can see where they're at, because most people walking in the door, they know what their immediate and emergent need is, but they don't understand what other needs they have until we kind of put it into a package and a perspective for them to just sink their teeth into, and like, wow, I didn't even realize that if I maybe got some help with the housing assistance that I can't afford, I could do that by getting the food assistance over here that you have to provide. So it gives my budget a little bit of breathing room. So that's kind of where we are. We do the community needs assessment, see what all barriers they have, what services we can provide, and then we reach out to all the community partners that we have in our back pocket to try and see collectively what we can do to fix that big issue.
Yeah. Well, and to the flip side then, right, in terms of the concern, but what about the hope? When you're looking at the county, when you're looking at maybe the people you're serving, right, the work that you and your partners are doing, what gives you the most hope?
The thing that I can witness that really makes me keep coming back, because as we all know, community action is not an easy profession. It's dealing with crisis and devastation and sadness, but there is that other side that we get to hold on to, the hope, seeing somebody make the shift to, I didn't see myself getting a GED, and now we've provided them a service and a resource that they can get a GED, they're getting a better paying job, now they're able to save in their savings account, and then they can get a car, and then, it just, that snowball effect, excuse me, that snowball effect that seems to be a possibility, is that's what gets to me every single time.
Yeah. It's, Megan, I think Shreve says this, a couple other board members I've heard say this, other member agencies, right? It's not, everybody deserves to dream. Community action gives people the opportunity to actually realize those dreams and maybe dream for the first time in their, frankly, in sometimes people's entire lives, right? Which I think is one of the most beautiful and hopeful things that our agencies collectively create.
I love that we're talking about hope so much because, as you're doing this work, Brandi, I assume that you're also being influenced. And I'm just so curious about, being in for 9 years doing this work. how has that affected you, and how does that affect your worldview?
So my path didn't start out with community action. It began with accounting and auditing and doing, the most practical thing that I could think of when I was a teenager that would always make me money because I knew I wanted a family and had to support them. So I never found passion in auditing or accounting. I can tell you that right now.
Well, to be fair, it is the really sexy part of everything that we do.
Oh yeah, for
Right.
sure. So I was doing that, and I was enjoying it as much as you can enjoy that type of work. But then when I started a family, I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I need to do something that's more meaningful, that's more impactful, because my kids are going to look at me one day and they're going to be like, okay, is she just a bean counter, or is she going to help people grow beans? You know what I mean? And I just want to do something that means a little bit more. So throughout my journey, it was the CFO position first, and that I felt like my accounting abilities could relate to that profession, and then I could still be doing something to help and make sure that the agency was running and profitable in whatever capacity that we could be to continue the service. And then as I got the opportunity to do more in leadership, it's hard. It's opened my eyes to the real possibility that sometimes I want things more for people than they want for themselves. And that's not necessarily even their choice that they don't want it from themselves. They just can't see it. They can't see the picture. They think that you're lying to them because it's just so much hope has been lost in their life to that point that they're just like, another rock in the road in front of me that I can't overcome. So
I just want to make sure to kind of make a statement about what you shared there about being an accountant. There's a few of you that have grown in your roles within the existing leadership of our network. So you, Michelle Steiner, Tressa Sweeney, all former CFOs who are now serving executive director, CEO roles. And I just think, and there's a number of number twos who have grown into the number one roles as well, kind of on a different side of the number two spectrum, right? So I think about Rochelle Abbott, right? Trenna from Blueprints, but there's a number of you that have really just grown in your experiences. And I just love to see the growth of leadership within the organization. I think it's a beautiful thing when that happens. So shout out to you, because not every CFO can make the jump from CFO to executive director. It's a different set of skills in a lot of ways.
yeah, it is. I'm thankful that I have been able to make that shift. I wasn't quite sure at first. The barriers that the leadership role witnesses, it's a lot, because I'm always in the background thinking, obviously, of the financial aspect and, okay, what's the bottom line? How does this affect us? Because that's what I did for, 6 years prior. But when I'm looking at, okay, yes, not only the financials, but what is the outcome results that we're looking for, and how do we match that with the financials? And it's tricky. I see you do it all the time, Beck, when we're having our meetings in the finance committee. I'm like, yep, I feel you. This is rough.
Yeah. But yeah, connecting strategy to action and back to the dollars is tricky business, particularly people who are very number minded, right? So yeah, and we're gonna dig into that a little bit more in a second. But if we reflect on kind of the leadership decisions now, being what I call the chief banana in charge, what's been some of the hardest leadership decisions that you've had to make since you've stepped into your role? I think you've been in that spot now for 2 years. Is that right?
Yes, 2 years in May. I think the people that keep me here are also the people. There's another sector of people that make it really difficult to do good work. And that's a hard pill to swallow, because my mind, I'm logical, I'm practical by nature, and I just don't understand why people need to be hateful, and why you would want to put that negativity on something that is so positive and can be so positive. So I think a struggle that I've had is staffing. Staffing's been difficult because some people have been in this realm for a really long time, and you can get burnout as we've talked about it, all of our different CAAP functions, it's a real thing. And when people don't realize that they're in the burnout stage and they're putting that on clients, or they're not able to see outside the box anymore, and they're just kind of getting in that same mindset that the stigma around community action is, it's really hard to try and bring them out of it or tell them it's time to go. Like you need to move on, because the good work that you think you're doing, it's not there anymore because you can't see it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stepping, people, right? People is the biggest thing. It's the engine that keeps it going, and it's what you need. And they say it's hard to find good people, and sometimes that's the truth. I'm curious, Brandi, with you, is there a value or a set of values that guides your leadership? I would imagine where you started as a leader and where you are now, a little bit different. So I'm just curious, are there any values that guide your leadership?
I'm going to say that strong kindness is probably kindness. Yes. I thought originally that kindness was the key to opening all doors, because that just makes sense to me. But you have to balance that with strength, and you have to balance that as a leader to express that, okay, I am willing to give you any kind of support out there, and we're going to make this strategy together and move mountains as long as you're willing to do it with me. And if you want to buck the system, then I'm going to have to understand that my kindness will only go so far. You can't take advantage of that, because then that's just negating the process. So I think that strength that you have to put behind the kindness is not always an easy task, because I don't like to be mean.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that it's being mean, but sometimes it really does come off that way when I just go into mom mode, is what I classify it as. I'm like, no. We're not doing it that way.
Holding people accountable feels like you've got to be the heavy, right? You've got to provide accountability. You've got to provide consequences. And that's perceived as, I think more often than not, it is perceived as being mean, which I think what people forget sometimes is, right, like you're the chief banana in charge. You're held accountable to the things that go well and don't go well. And so you're also trying to protect the organization. You're trying to mitigate risk, right? And that means making sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I think, as somebody who observes people and has gotten to know you a little bit, I think you have always struck me as someone who is approachable, thoughtful, and I have to imagine that your team feels similarly.
Fingers crossed.
I mean, I've not heard otherwise for what it's worth.
Well, listen, that's all good.
Brandi's team, if you're listening right now, sure a little love. Sure a little
Yes, please. And you know what they do? They really do. I have a really good group of people that are coming up underneath me right now. We've got a good plan. But speaking back to the other point that I was going to make is that I've realized as of late that my biggest strength is also my biggest weakness. My biggest strength is that I'm a situational thinker. I always give every situation its due course, and I don't try and box it up into one particular thing. However, in a leadership role such as this, it is really difficult to not find people that feel like you're discriminating against them because, well, this person, you gave this person this, or this person, we need to keep it linear. We need to keep it straight. And I'm like, but I understand that, but it doesn't always work that way. Like there's a lot of gray in between that black and white. And so that's something that I've been challenged with recently that I have to really start working on and to overcome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's okay to operate within gray as long as that's explained to people about here's what the black and white is, right? But here is the area that's gray, and we have to evaluate the specifics of any situation. So I feel that. I think as long as you've established the guardrails of what is important from an equity perspective that you're never gonna vary from, right? I think that's okay. I mean, it ultimately depends on, the devil's in the details with that, but
yeah,
that would be my 2 cents.
I'll take them.
Well, being a former CFO, sorry, I had to.
So one other question kind of along these same lines, though, about kind of just leadership and, some of the challenges, et cetera. But what is really important to you, or how do you continue to show up maybe when progress is feeling slow?
When I think about, first of all, it always goes back to the kids for me, because my kids are my heart. And so when I think about one of our programs with food insecurity and childhood food insecurity, our Power Pack program, that's the first one that I always look to when I'm having a rough day. I'm like, okay, but there are 800 students that were going home on Friday, didn't have any food over the weekend because their families were always negligent, just because there's too much month at the end of the money and they don't have anything more than eggs or something. So I'll be like, okay, well, at least we were able to do that. I am secure in that. I know the bags went out and I know that they got them, and 800 hungry bellies, otherwise, if it weren't for us, are fed. And, then I start going down the line and trying to think of all the different positives, 600 seniors, and just rocking out those numbers, making sure that I can collectively get that picture in my head. Okay, so yeah, maybe 5 people are really struggling and we are not helping them enough. And I don't know how we can, but those other ones, they're going to keep me going, and they're going to keep me thinking that there's another route. We have to find another route to help those ones that we're struggling with right now.
Yeah, no, I feel that in my soul. One of the things I tell people in leadership and management coaching training is you got to think about what is your energy sucking thing and what is your energy giving thing in your work, and how do you try to spend or balance your day so that you can get through the energy sucking things, right? So you start with the really energy giving, then maybe you go into the energy sucking, and then you go back to the energy giving. And if there are particular programs or things that really do get you fired up, even just once a month, being able to spend time with that group of people or seeing that program can be so valuable to trying to, stabilize. And I think make sure, I hate the saying, but make sure your cup is filled, right? It is so incredibly important.
It sounds like your why, Brandi, of course, is helping people. And I'm curious, where does that come from? Where does that superhero power originate from? Did your parents give this to you? Did Indiana County, are you a production of your environment? Why human services? Why are you helping people?
It's always been a passion. It's been an underlying passion that I didn't really realize was something that I just had innately in me. I was always a pleaser when I was young. I wanted to make people laugh. I wanted to make them happy. I thought I was going to be the next Jim Carrey, but that ship has sailed, unfortunately.
Oh, no. You can have a second act, my friend.
Talent show at the next CAAP conference.
There you go.
Yes. Yes,
CAAP
I'll have
got
to get
talent.
my stand-up.
You heard it here, folks.
CAAP got talent.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was, if something needed to be done, or my mom would need help with something, I was always the first person to pitch in, and I didn't know why. And it was because at the end of the day, I was like, okay, I can see the result. I can see the impact. It wasn't something that I was just reaching up, and I could feel that. Okay, so I washed these dishes for somebody and it saved their back from having to stand and do it. And, so it started at home with helping my mom and doing chores and things like that. And then I got with my husband when I was very young, and they just thought that I was the greatest thing because I was willing to help. And I was just like, but isn't that what people do?
Yeah.
So then I was just, known as that person. And it just seems to be something that followed me that I didn't really capitalize on until recently. It's this is really a strength of mine. And I get a lot of good feelings and positive vibes out of it. And in this crazy life, you need as many positive vibes as you can get.
Yes.
Hallelujah. Amen to that. So you touched on this a little bit in terms of your transition from finance into the executive director role and kind of some of the why. Did you ever sort of imagine that you'd be sitting in an executive director role?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did. I didn't think it was going to be this soon. But I've always had the leadership quality that has been, whether I wanted it or not, it's been put onto me.
Yeah, it's like every time you get into a job, you're like, oh, you're going to be a manager now. And you're like, I just got here.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. But I mean, I think that you get rewarded for wanting to do all the things. Sometimes people will take advantage of it, but sometimes you get to see the other side of the reward and be like, oh, yes, because I know I'm a doer. And if I'm a doer, then why not do big things as opposed to just like small little things? And so I did know eventually some way I was going to be in leadership, but I didn't know where that was going to be. And when I took the CFO position, I honestly thought that this was going to be like the lifelong thing that I was going to do, the finance, and just keep on keeping on with that. And then my executive director knew, and she saw something in me, and she said, I don't want you to say anything, but when I retire, I really want to know if you would want to take this on. And I was like, yeah, sure.
I remember one of my first conversations with her telling me I have a really rock star smart CFO, and that just how she really asserted just how much she believed in you then. So for what it's worth, I mean, adore her. She was just such a kind soul. I was sad to see when she retired, but really excited to see you step into the position.
Absolutely. She was one of the most faithful people I've ever met. And I tell anybody that I know that there are some people that can, I don't know, they just exude it from them. And you knew that what she was saying, she believed wholeheartedly, regardless of what it was, she believed it. And she just helped you move in that direction. And it was wonderful to be under her. And so I was thankful to take this role and see where it brings us. I want to do great things here. And I think that our community action in our county needs to grow unless there's no lack of need. So if we can be, the catalyst to making things better.
And before you're going, can we say her name? Because we kept saying she and her. Who is this?
Miss Michelle Fott. I will shout it from the rooftop. She is a wonderful lady.
Oh,
if you were going to say it, I was going to say it. So I'm going to if you hear us, Michelle.
Yeah, I'm gonna send her a text message like, listen.
Yeah, shout out. I mean, Brandi, how has this changed you as a person? How has this leadership role changed you as a person? Are you carrying this into other, home life?
I would like to say that it's been the reverse, that I have carried this into my home, like leading people from here. It would make me a better leader at home or whatever. But I think it's honestly the reverse. When I became a mom, I didn't always know that I wanted children. And so when I started that family and realized what a treasure it was to be the mom and to be that important in somebody else's life, it just translated to here. And so I see the things that I do that are helpful and the way that we run the household and try and instill the great values in our children. It easily relates to what you can do for people that are in crisis. And so I think that my being a mother has helped me be a better leader, honestly.
I think to that end, right, like there's something that unconditional love, when you experience it through the lens of a kiddo, is very different. And I think you're right. It does translate differently into helping people in a way that, I'm not saying that you love all your clients in the same way you love your kids, but there is this piece of you that you give up, right, to take care of others. And people feel that when it feels really authentic. Mm-hmm. But I used to say, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you can relate to them a lot better. Sometimes when you're in a leadership role, and especially in a higher position, people will take what you're saying as like you're dictating or you're being condescending, or it's wrapped around this negativity. And it's just like when you're a mom and you have to know how you word something to a child to make it seem not that big, not that heavy. I think that it can be that same way. So you give the same vibe when you're talking to another adult, because you've already witnessed how well that works in a situation that's a little bit tricky.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure to say, right, as somebody who is a non-traditional parent, so right, found my parenthood through non-traditional means, I want to say that it doesn't, I think this perspective is not because of somebody who's had children of their own biologically, but as somebody who has found themselves in a parental role, and parents come in lots and lots of different forms. So if you're listening, you're like, well, that's some crap. Just want to make sure to acknowledge that, right? Like we all have influences over, little folks in our life in different ways that, doesn't mean you're any less of a parental figure than somebody who has had their own children biologically.
Well,
absolutely.
I'd go in my direction. I'm a caretaker for my mom and my aging mom. So, I'm just caretaking for an older person. So, but you still use kind, gentle language. Oh, at least I do now. I'm learning.
My mother-in-law, and if she hears this, she's gonna be like, Brandi. But my mother-in-law lives with us. She came about 7-8 years ago now, and having two mothers and different capacities, mother to grandmother and grandchildren and your son and the whole shebang, it makes for an interesting household. And I would like to say that I am always using gentle language, probably not what she would say, because sometimes you get like a little...
Yeah.
Look, we
gotta get stuff done. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
We all have really perfect versions of ourselves and then not so great versions of ourselves. Yeah. Not always our best selves. Let's just say that out loud. We can all accept a little bit of fault. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, Jess that used to work here, she's one of my best friends, and she adopted both of her children. And it's no different. When you decide to take somebody else on as your person, in whatever capacity, it changes you innately. And
take us there, Brandi. Take us there. You've been working in this field for a bit now. Is there any client story that stays with you that has just touched your heart?
I would say the one that gets me the most, I was in a CFO role still at that time, and there was a woman downstairs, and she was in a bad way. She had domestic violence, human trafficking in her background, and she was struggling with mental health as well. And she was a former addict, and like you name it, she had checked all of the boxes for having a really, really rough time. And she came into the office, and one of our liaisons was working with her to try and get her into crisis, because she was definitely in crisis in that moment. And she was struggling a lot that day. And so everybody had gone, and our previous worker called up and she said, I don't know what to do here. Like, I need somebody down here to help. But I was like, okay. So I went down and we had a conversation. We called crisis together. And I ended up taking her. She wanted to go. She agreed after a lot of talking with me. She agreed to go to the emergency room because she really needed to get a support bed for another rehab facility or something. She just needed it. And she wasn't going to go at first. Then we talked her through that. And on our way taking her there, she said, I'm going to be in the emergency room, and they're not going to let me have a cigarette, and they're not going to let me have this. And she was just listing off all the things, and she was starting to backtrack. Like, I don't want to be in that situation anymore. I don't know if I want you to drop me off there. I said, well, how about this? How about we go to the Choice that's right up the road? We'll get a pack of cigarettes. We'll get you a pop, whatever else you need. And then we'll go over to the park and we'll sit and we'll have a little bit of conversation. You can have those things, and then we can go to the emergency room. And so this took, all together, probably I didn't get home that night from the emergency room until 1 a.m. And the good news is that she benefited from it. She got a bed. It was 3 days later, but she got a bed, and she was able to go through the rehab process again. And the last I had heard, she had moved out of county and she had found housing in another county. I have lost track of that situation, but at that moment I was like, okay, there's a reason that I'm willing to stay here 9 hours past my day. So I need to be here, and this is why it matters.
Wow.
I think what you're speaking to is something that I just want to call attention to, that is within community action, regardless of how small or how large an organization is, that our executive directors, the roles that they play can range so dramatically from, right, being in a boardroom, talking about a budget, to working with a client in the capacity that you just talked about. And it is both, I think, the beautiful part of what our agencies and our particular executive leadership does, our frontline staff does, but it also carries, right, this additional weight of having to jump from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And some days there is no, a lot of times when you transition from thing to thing, there's a little bit of a grace period where you're sort of like allow yourself to, okay, I'm going to get ready for this thing now that I have to go and do. But so often in our work, I feel like that's not what ends up happening. It's like your desk phone rings or you get pinged on whatever thing that you work on the computer. And it's like, you got to be downstairs right now. This person needs you. This is what's happening. And you're like, you've got to go de-escalate a situation suddenly. And so I think it requires just a totally different type of thinking that is, it's a lot. It's a lot to carry.
It really is. I feel that every single day walking in here. It's like, okay, I have a plan. I'm going to catch up with this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then one phone call can change the entire trajectory. And I'm sitting there at the end of the day and it's already over time. And I'm like, but I didn't get anything off my to-do list. And it just rolls into the next day and some other crisis happens. It does take a lot to wear the hat.
Yeah, for sure. So to that end, as we kind of get to wrap up some of our questions here with you, if you could sit down with a new executive director tomorrow, what would you tell them? Any advice, thoughts, hopes?
Find the balance. I wrote this, and I will definitely not swear, but I wrote this on my passing CFO's picture frame that we gave her when she had to leave. And I truly believe it. There is a life full of effort moments and effort moments. And when you find the balance between the two of them, that's where your peace is going to be. And you cannot always give effort. There are some times where it's effort. I cannot do this today. I got to go fill up my cup with maybe something alcoholic.
Take your poison.
Or just juice, whatever. But I need to go and find an outlet, get something that is the most ridiculous, stupid thing that you can find out there. For me, it's tortilla challenge videos. They make me laugh so hard, like tears streaming. But find those moments that you can just latch onto, decompress. So it's not going to take away the heavy, but it's going to help you recharge to get through every single day that's always going to be heavy.
Yeah, rebalance. One of my favorite things to do right now is to scroll on Facebook Marketplace and look at the very weird things that people sell and what they're selling them for. It's amazing. And then I send them to my father-in-law, who also thinks it's hilarious.
That sounds like a fun
time. You're going to get a couple now, just so you know. I'm going to send you some of my most favorites.
Please do. Yeah, that would be awesome, because it's just that, like, making those little connections in the day. Yeah. It breaks it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We had a team message earlier from one of our team members who said, I just need something to break up the day. What's everybody's favorite or most used emoji? And then everybody on the team just started sending random emojis. And it was funny.
Okay. We have to answer that question.
Mine is like, it's kind of
the side face. The yeah. Brandi, what about you?
Well, I was told that I was not allowed to use the thumbs up anymore because that was very generic. So I told him, I was like, well, fine. If you don't like one finger, I'll give you another.
Well, now instead of just sending one thumbs up, you should just send like 10.
Yes.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of the thumbs.
Yeah. I'm going with the celebrate emoji. That's just me. The little party hat with the little thing out there.
That tracks for me, Heather. That tracks for me.
Yep.
I'm the living emoji. Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know.
I love it.
So I'm looking at the last few questions here that we want to make sure to squeak out. Let's see. We've talked to you a little bit about hope. We talked about, the story about why the work matters. what surprised you the most when you became an executive director?
That's a good question. I think that the need to be so knowledgeable about everything. When you're a CFO, you're knowledgeable about numbers, and people only go to you about numbers. When you're doing case management, it's about the counseling and case management. When it's, you're siloed in a lot of different positions, but as executive director, people expect you to know everything about everything. And when you don't have the answer, it feels like you're less than, but then you put it into perspective and it's just like, you can't possibly have every answer. Saying that I need to look back at that contract because I looked at 10 today is okay. So I think that was the most surprising thing to me, is how much people expect you to just keep in your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I said to somebody recently, they asked me for a response on something. I said, well, you've had a long time to think about this. This is the first time I'm hearing it. So I need time to also reflect and try to think about how I want to react, what my reaction is. I just don't know. And I think that's fair. It's okay to take a moment and breathe and recognize you may not be in the best headspace to answer the question, and be thoughtful about what your response is. It's totally okay. As much as I like to think that I know everything, I also recognize that I don't always.
I know it's a hard concept to think that you don't know everything, but
yeah,
that's why we have teams.
Hence my favorite emoji. If you're listening, you're not going to get that, so you got to watch this on YouTube. Anything in particular that you want to call out about just the network and the nature of the power of our network, and I think kind of leaving us with a moment of hope and thoughtfulness about the future of community action on the whole? I know that you've been a regular at many of our larger scale events, like I know you were just at the summit. You've been at conference a number of times. And so I know you've gotten to know some of your counterparts and heard about some of their programs, but anything in particular about sort of the optimism that you see for the future of community action, or something that gives you hope about the work that we do collectively?
I think that every time I go to any event or I talk about community action on our biweekly meetings, it's the passion and how do I say it? Everybody wants to make a difference. Everybody's ready for change. Everybody knows that the system is broken and that there are still silos, but collectively we are willing to gather together, which is not often seen in today's world. We are willing to gather together and say, okay, well, I'll take this part, and we'll reconvene and we're going to knock this out. And that's something that really makes the team value portion. It's remarkable to see, because so many people are individualized right now and they're focused on what's best for me or what's going to happen for me. And if we can, as a group, spread that community out through the actions that we're doing, I think that makes me happy and makes me hopeful. And I love the group of people that we have together every single time. It's fun. And we do meaningful things while we're having fun. So that's always a treasure.
It's so true. It's one of the things I've missed recently, because I've not gone to a lot of national events. But in the first 2 years of being here, it was something that really, helped me better understand our work, but also just continued to drive me to work harder, was the amount of time that I got to spend with so many of you, and just be able to be with, community action family and hear about the great things that you all are doing in your local communities. And we are blessed to have an amazing group of organizations here in Pennsylvania that are just doing really remarkable things. To be clear, there are amazing community action agencies across the country, but the ones that I get to spend the most time with, of course, are my favorites here in Pennsylvania. So.
I'm just going to be a little biased and just say PA is the best. Can I just say that?
What she said.
Heather, any last questions for Brandi that you want to make sure to ask?
Oh my gosh. One last question, Brandi. Is there any leader or book that you've read or any inspiration that's influencing your leadership today?
Well, this is going to sound really corny and cheesy, so I'm going to preface it with that. But honestly, my biggest inspiration in my role since I took on has been Beck. I think that
having goosebumps.
He's just remarkable. The drive that I see in him, it makes me want to do more. And just always being humble and kind. So I honestly want to give props and shout out to Beck because he's always there for everyone and it's not put on. So that's the kind of leader I want to be.
No, Brandi totally makes me cry.
No, it's true, Beck. It's true, dude.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
I appreciate you so much. I don't even know what to say. my whole stupid heart.
Oh.
I think I needed to hear that. I didn't even know I needed to hear it. So thank you for saying that. That means so much.
I mean every word.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm going to be able to close this out now, Heather. I'm going to cry.
Oh, well, I got you, brother. Listen, you've been listening to the Thinking CAAP podcast. I tried. I need to give it back to you.
Thank you, Brandi, for spending time with us. I really appreciate it. And not just because you said the very nice thing at the end that you said, but I really just do appreciate you so much. I was just on a meeting the other day with a group of nonprofits, and there were a number of folks from Indiana County. And I just want to make sure to give you a shout out because they just sang your praises and the agency's praise over and over again and just said, and then there was somebody else on a call who was like, I wish my local agency was like you all. I'm not going to tell you who that local agency was, but they just said so many really great things about the work that you all are doing. So thank you for the work that you and your team does. It matters. I know that you're making a difference in your local community. So thank you. If you want to learn more about Indiana County Community Action, you can go to thecaap.org, go to find an agency near you, look them up. You can email info@thecaap.org, but please consider time, resources, whether that's, dollars or just simply spreading the word about the organization. Check them out. If you want to get connected to Brandi to learn more, we're happy to connect you. But thank you so much, Brandi, for spending time. Heather, always good to see you.
Oh,
and
likewise.
Hope everybody checks us out the next time on the Thinking CAAP.
Thank you both.
Thank you for being a part of this episode of the Thinking CAAP. Check the show notes for resources and links to other episodes. And don't forget to subscribe and follow to be notified when new episodes are released. If you have any community action questions you'd like Beck or one of our local experts to answer in a future episode, please email your questions about community action to info@thecaap.org. Subject line, Thinking CAAP.